Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I'm Christina Layman from Coterie, and I'm excited to talk with our friends at Bold Penguin today. I'm going to give everyone a couple minutes to join, and then I will kick it off with our guests. For anyone who is just now joining and rolling in, we're going to give it a couple more minutes before I introduce you to John and Chris, and look forward to the discussion soon. Okay, so I'm going to kick it off. As a quick introduction, I'm Christina Layman. I am one of the directors of digital partnerships here at Coterie Insurance. I will be the moderator, hostess with the mostest, and what that really means is I've prepared some dad jokes, much to Chris and John's chagrin, I'm sure. I'll only tell you like two or three. But what I do at Coterie is really working with digital partners like Bold Penguin and making sure that the technology works correctly in that partnership. That's a bit of a scary thing to share with the audience because now you have my email address. And if something's not working technology wise, you might want to reach out, but it'll get to me and we will get it resolved. And if there's any tech features too, I love to hear those. But that's not why we're here today. We are here to meet Chris Cheatham and John Poucher. As a quick introduction, Chris is the product evangelist at Bold Penguin. Started out as a lawyer, created Risk Genius, and I think that got acquired by Bold Penguin. And here he is to talk to us about product and how relationships can grow with technology. He believes we're just scratching the surface with insurance technology. So I'm interested to learn more about that too. John is the VP of Growth at Coterie Insurance. He is also no stranger to insurance. And he really loves partnerships like this. Both have their teams playing in March Madness on Friday, UCLA and Kansas, respectively, I believe. I went to the University of Kentucky, so it's still a sore subject. But as I promised, I'll give you 2 dad jokes, theme appropriate. Why did the insurance agency deny the high wire artist insurance? Because of her outstanding balance. And then, why did the 2 penguins jump when they first met? They were trying to break the ice. With that, please meet Chris and John. Hey, guys.
Hey, Christina. I love your dad jokes. Your delivery is so great. The timing is beautiful. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Chris has only heard these for the first time. So sorry, guys.
Yeah, that was something.
It's a coterie tradition, and the worse they get, the more I like them usually.
Oh, so I was talking to a cowboy the other day who was looking for a dog. What did I recommend?
I don't know.
Get along, little doggy. Okay, that's all. I think I totally butchered that joke, by the way. So I think that there was some,
It's better when that happens, though.
Yeah,
it is.
It's a dad joke.
Yeah,
I've done that a few times. So to get things started, I did high-level introductions, but John, could you introduce yourself for the audience?
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is John Poucher, as Christina stated. I'm the VP of Growth, Agency Distribution here at Coterie Insurance. Have spent my professional career in the insurance world. Started in 2009 in the height of the economic crisis. Started on the MGA wholesale side. Have spent my career standing up distribution mostly. So working with agents and brokers for most of my career. I've also done some product development. Worked in the London markets in my past. Ever since I've been in the insurance industry, always thought that we could utilize technology in much greater capacity than what it was being utilized in the past. And the moment the InsurTech revolution started to happen, I knew that I had to be a part of it. So glad to be a part of it now with Coterie, to be able to provide innovation to a legacy industry and really work with brokers, because I think brokers are going to be around for the long haul, and just give them the next generation tools they really need that their customers are demanding. So just super excited to be here and chat with you all this morning.
Thanks. And then Chris, can we get a quick intro from you?
Sure, no problem. So my name is Chris Cheatham. Let's see. So I'm the product evangelist at Bold Penguin. I always have to collect myself and not laugh when I say that out loud. Product evangelist at Bold Penguin. Prior to that, I was an insurance claim attorney doing surety bond claims, and realized I really liked technology, like new cutting edge technology. So ended up starting a company that was doing claim document management. That morphed into Risk Genius, which was doing automated insurance contract review. That company, Risk Genius, was acquired by Bold Penguin. We've morphed that into the ClauseLink product, which is really awesome. So at Bold Penguin, I just talk to people about what we do, about what they're doing in insurance. I try not to sell. I try to just figure out what's going on and connect dots for people. Bold Penguin is doing, digital quote and bind for small business insurance, and it's a really fun place to be. So, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Great. Thank you for those introductions. Okay, so I'm excited about this topic because we both work in insurance technology focus. There's always a lot of discussion on what does technology mean for me? Like, what does that mean for me in my role? And I think there are so many benefits to adding technology to enhancing relationships with agents, with their consumers. And I want to dive deeper into that topic with you both. I'll start off, Chris. What makes the Bold Penguin and Coterie Insurance relationship unique and powerful for the industry, in your opinion?
Yeah, so this one, I usually don't look at notes to answer questions. I actually have bullet points on this one. So if you see me looking to the side, I actually have stats because I went to our carrier implementation team and I said, what's going on? Because I wanted to see, like, is it good? Is it bad? And so I wrote down, like, seems really successful. So Coterie, obviously you all sell insurance, right? And we're helping people get quotes from people like Coterie, from companies like Coterie. And so let's see, since implementation with you all, since we implemented the Coterie product on the Bold Penguin platform, we've seen double-digit growth of quotes from Coterie every month. So that was like mid 2021. That's awesome. Like, that's really, really good. That means people are growing. Like, that's kind of what you want to see. If you're a software startup and you see double-digit growth every month, that's really good because it just keeps growing and compounding. So you all quote a lot of GL for us, which is great, general liability. And then BOP is growing quickly, I'm told. So that's awesome. We do a lot of contractors and janitorial work with you all. I think, like, kind of big picture, I've always heard, like, you all have a broad appetite, which is fantastic because, like, that is the thing that can make quoting online, like quoting digital insurance, magical on a platform like Bold Penguin, is like having a quote for everything. And we're not like there yet. I'll just be honest, like, no one's even close to there yet. Yeah. And it's like, imagine if you bought an app from the Apple store and it worked, like, I don't know, for us, we think we're like leading the industry and like how many quotes we're providing every time. But let's say that app works like 60% of the time in returning your data. You'd be like, what the heck? That's a thing agents are actually used to. And then they have to go to the E&S market to get the other quotes. So yeah, so thanks for helping fill out our appetite, I guess, is what I would say.
Nice.
Of course.
John, do you have thoughts on that or want to?
No, I just want to, thank Chris and our partnership with Bold Penguin. We really want to be wherever the agent wants to transact business. We think Bold Penguin provides a streamlined process for agents. And so that's part of the reason we see value in the partnership, is that we want to make sure that our agents we can be wherever our agents want to be, right? And so we can provide that product to them and see a ton of value in that. And like Chris said, we have a wide appetite. Bold Penguin really helps us deliver that wide appetite to our brokers, because sometimes we have such a wide appetite, they don't even know what we do exactly, and they might not come to us on certain risks. But if they go through Bold Penguin, because they're funneling most of the risk flow through that platform, will show up when other times they might not have thought about Coterie and bringing that risk to Coterie. So it's a mutually beneficial partnership that we're really excited about.
Yes. And I can say, working on the technology side, this is not my show, so I shouldn't even be adding this in here, but Bold Penguin's so innovative and always interested in collaborating. And if we see something we want from a tech enhancement, I feel like you all are always so helpful in seeing that come through to life. And that just makes things a better experience all around, which is what we're still growing and trying to evolve towards. So I very much appreciate that collaboration and partnership with you all, Chris. So why focus on small commercial insurance? What big problems do you think we are solving here, or we're trying to solve? Because as Chris has said, we're just kind of scratching the surface here. I'm going to give that to John first.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Christina. The big problem is that historically it's taken almost as much time and effort to write $1,000 policy as it's taken to write a $50,000 policy, which makes no sense. If the revenue is, 15x that of a smaller business, why is it taking almost more effort at times to place a small business policy? So that's one of the big problems. It just has never made sense to me since I've been in the industry. So how can we attack that? These smaller risks where there's data out there, where they're homogenous, now we can streamline that process to make it profitable for brokers to go after this. They should not be spending 2-3 hours in an underwriting process to be able to place $1,000 premium risk. It just does not make economic sense for them. It doesn't make business sense for them. So I think that's the big problem we're trying to solve. And then the second is, how do we make it profitable too on the back end with a streamlined experience, right? Focus on the insurance fundamentals, make sure that we're going to be around for the long haul, that we're not just going out there and grabbing risk and making it simple without doing the underwriting and without doing the due diligence on the risk selection and segmentation that we're doing. So, coming at it from both ends to help our agents, enable them to spend more time with their customer, doing risk management and doing things within their agency to make their agency more efficient and more streamlined and better serve their customers in the long run.
Awesome. I agree. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what John said. And I think the phrase that was in my head, and I think I used like wildly before, like the Coterie Bold Penguin partnership is wildly successful. I'd say small business insurance in the past has been wildly unsuccessful and wildly unprofitable because of all the touch points that existed before. So like in order to make it work, you have to remove those touch points. So like, I think back to like when I had my startup and we never heard from our agents about renewals and possibly getting quotes from other carriers. And that's because those were touch points. And how do you solve that problem? Like, how do you make it so that a agent can very quickly go in and get lots of quotes and provide those? And so that's why, like, having access to lots of carriers, like I think the days of going into lots of carrier portals is kind of going to die away. Like it's going to go away because you got to get lots of quotes. Small business customers are going to expect lots of quotes. And sorry, by the way, if Coterie doesn't want me saying this stuff, but like, I think it's just a thing, right? People are expecting lots of options. Just like when you go to Amazon, you get lots of options when you're going to buy whatever it is you're buying. So, but getting lots of quotes is like, it's painful because if you have to go to each touch point, each portal and do that. And so, when I think of like a Bold Penguin platform, what we're just trying to do is remove each touch point along the way so that you can get those multiple quotes by doing one thing, right? And like so far we've done it with the admitted products that are out there. And I think like the future is like going before even having to input the information and starting to remove some of those touch points. So you type in a company name and it populates with all the information you need about that business, right? Or even better, you have your own storefront where the customer enters their name and then they get lots of quotes back and you never even have to touch it. Like that's the dream, right? And then on the other side, when you don't have an admitted product, starting to have E&S solutions as well, like E&S solutions that provide those kind of non-admitted quotes. So just removing the touch points along the way, and there's a lot of work still to be done in that space.
Yeah.
I love it, Chris. I love the future state there. And no, we understand there needs to be options, and that's part of the reason we want to be wherever the brokers want to be. So we completely understand that. Yeah. The one thing I would say there is that the touch points with brokers and the insureds, we want to reduce that. But I also think that brokers want to spend that time that they're doing data entry and non-customer facing activities and replace those with customer facing activities. And obviously a customer can buy online if that's the way the customer wants to buy online, but also spend time with them, maybe in their business, like, doing risk management techniques, like spending time to actually do the value added services that a broker can provide to their insureds.
Yep.
This is just a follow-up question to what we've been discussing of simplifying the process. But how do you build trust in those situations? As you continue to simplify it, how do you build trust with the agents and with the consumers that you do know all of this about the business and build confidence in that? I'm going to give that to John. He seems ready.
Christina, I am ready. Yeah, no, this is a foundational layer within our organization, is that we want to be around for the long haul. And I talked about focusing on profitability and loss ratio. that is how you build, being around consistently year over year, not taking rate, not entering markets, exiting markets. That's how you build trust with both the agents and with the insureds over the long haul. Performing when claims happen. We have claims in-house. So, that's really the touch point of when the product that we sell becomes real a lot of the times. So we have a whole team, we call them C3 in our organization, that handles and helps the claims process throughout from beginning to end until checks are being written to our insureds when a claim actually does happen. So that's a very, very critical point that we are taking very, very seriously and want to provide an exceptional experience around. So, knowing that the right focuses in the insurance policy life cycle to help build that trust over time with our agents and insureds is prime focus for us.
Great. Chris, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so Bold Penguin approaches it different because we're a software company, right? Which makes total sense. And so it's all about customer success. And we actually just rebranded kind of our the people that work on the front lines with our customers. It was customer, I can't remember, customer something. And it was like, no, we need to add success to that so that they are successful, and we work towards making them successful. So that's actually I love that. It made a difference. And so there's different things that we try to do to trigger success, like appointments, just getting these agents appointed. It's a painful process from particularly some carriers and not others. So being transparent up front and saying, hey, we have to get you appointed. We're going to do our work to make that happen, because it's not just a flip the switch type thing in most cases. The second thing then is getting with those agents as soon as they're appointed to start quoting. We found that if people do 10 quotes in a month, the first month, they're going to be wildly successful in Bold Penguin. Gosh, I keep saying wildly successful. I need to stop that. Every time I say that from now on, I'll send you all some, I don't know. But getting those quotes going, 10 quotes, that's what equals success, because then people figure out how to implement the software in their workflows, and they continue using it. So yeah, I'd say our customer success team, we track their success rate, like how well they're doing for the customers via scoring from the customers themselves. Yep. And they get 5s almost every time. So a 1 to 5 scale. So they're doing very well. And honestly, they have to pick up the slack sometimes for the carriers that don't have a great process behind the scenes.
Yeah, that makes sense. What objections, if any, do you get to your technology? How do you overcome these concerns? I'm going to give that to Chris because it seems relevant to what we just discussed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one objection to any software, and it applies to Bold Penguin too, is will it work? How do I know it'll work? And so we just demo, right? And we've actually doubled down on our efforts to do an amazing demo to show people how the software works. And so we have certified demo salespeople now, which is a really cool initiative they started this year. I think the other thing is we can just say, well, we've done over 3 million quotes at this point. It's worked over 3 million times. And that really does take care of that. So and we have different entry points too. So somebody can just kind of get their feet wet with a agent terminal and just use sub appointments to start, with our terminal access package. It's pretty cheap, and a lot of people start there and then they start growing, which I love for a software model. So it's just getting over that initial objection. Will it work? And like I said, we're trying to get into E&S as well. We are getting into E&S as well, because that will only make it work better for the agents when they do not find an admitted product for their customers.
Great. John, what do you see?
Yeah, ours is a little different, obviously, because we are the market and not a software provider. I already touched on one of the big concerns that we get from our agents all the time is will you be around? You're an insurtech out here grabbing market share. Are you guys gonna be around in 3 to 5 years from now? So I don't have to move my book and deal with all the friction that might come along with that. And so, our big stance there is the things I already talked about in the foundational layers of wanting to be around, of focusing on loss ratio, We have a big insurance team. That insurance part is the first part of that insurtech word. So we really focus on that. Our founders and actuary, we have our head of insurance is a longtime Travelers underwriter in the Travelers world. We have another actuary on our data and analytics team. So we focus heavily on the insurance product side to make sure that's going to be sustainable for the long term. The thing about the objection we get around the technology is mostly around risk nuance and underwriting nuance per risk, right? As you build technology, it sometimes can be a little bit difficult to play out every single scenario about a risk coming through and how it fits. So right now we're focused on primary operations. It's when there's second and tertiary operations that could be question marks, where it gets a little more difficult to build a technology solution for that. We are doing some things from our underwriting model and data gathering capabilities that will help with this underwriting and risk level nuance going into the future. So that way brokers can feel comfortable that A, we want the business, and B, will be profitable in our eyes long-term as well. So, and they'll get that correct answer from the underwriting engine and technology throughout the process as well. So that's how we're handling that, and really excited about the future there.
Great. So relationship building is so important in the insurance industry and to agents and their agencies. Aside from using technology, what are other ways you're building your agent relationships at your respective companies? Chris, what do you see Bold Penguin doing to kind of really focus on this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, part of it is, well, going into this year, actually, one of the things that and I'm kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit. I'm sure people wouldn't even like this, but like one of the things that I said on the marketing side is that we need to be talking to the agents more. Historically, Bold Penguin is started with like large enterprises, like Nationwide as an example. They've done a case study on the work we did with them. But now that we have the Bold Penguin terminal, which is a SaaS product to go do quote and bind, we have to shift, and we have shifted our focus as well. You kind of have to do both at the same time, frankly, but we have to also speak to what I call the Main Street agent, the 2 people office, the 10 people office, the 20 people office, and talk to them as well about how to use quote and bind. And so we're doing a lot of webinars around that. We're going to a lot more smaller agency conferences. I'm trying to just talk that language. Like, it's a whole different vernacular than the large enterprise technology build out at a carrier or a super large agency. So honestly, it's a great question. It's something that we're working on every day. Probably my biggest effort personally to do that was like redoing the Bold Penguin website. Previously, it was like a sort of an unfocused website because we were doing a lot of different work for enterprise customers. And so I said, okay, if we need to make it very clear what we're selling if we're going to go after agents, because they aren't going to spend a whole lot of time trying to suss out what we do. And so, yeah, that was one of the big initiatives last year. So it's a work in progress, and hopefully we're making some progress.
Great. I think we're kind of in the same camp of, we love talking to agents and hearing what they like. I'm not going to steal your thunder, John.
No, you can all day long, Christina. No, she knows all too well. Yes, we love our agents. That's our primary source of business. I actually oversee the entire team. It's part of my job functionality that interacts with our agent base, our agency plants. And we work with agencies that are mostly of the size you just talked about, Chris, the 2-person shop to the 20, 30-person shop. We do have some larger partnerships out there, but the vast majority is the smaller Main Street agent, because that's, retail follows rooftops is kind of the old saying. And so the smaller risk, which we have appetite for, lives in the smaller agency plants. They really value the technology we're bringing, the speed, simplicity, and service that I talked about earlier. That's really helping them write this business more efficiently and spend more time with their customers. The other ways we interact is like Chris, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to a lot of the agency conferences out in this year. Now they're back up and running after COVID. So we're excited to see a lot of our customers face to face. We've actually structured my team as well to focus on agency experience. You talked about customer success. So we're going to focus on the agency experience as a whole. And we actually have a whole group we're putting together called the Coterie Collaborative. That we're really excited about, 28 agencies that will work with us and provide us feedback on our product and how we can improve in a multitude of different areas. And so we're excited to work with that group. So we also have a broker newsletter. We have a producer resources page. We have all kinds of tools that our marketing team does an absolutely fantastic job of providing all kinds of new and innovative tools. We have a new program called Sochi that we're rolling out to that helps agents with landing pages. And if you get to a certain level, even we'll do some marketing, some local digital marketing on behalf of our agencies. So just trying to provide tools and help them in ways that can be cumbersome, but we know is beneficial to help their agency grow. So we're focused on that as well as like how we can be true partners to our agents. So trying to think of outside of the box ways to help them out.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to that too, which you reminded me of, is like, we're also trying to work with the carriers that are as part of Bold Penguin to talk to their agents, right? You all have the relationships with the agents. If we're going to try selling software to them, we don't necessarily have that built up relationship. And so a lot of my work this year has been with working with carriers who are attempting to explain to their agents why they should possibly use Bold Penguin as their kind of access point for those products. So we're doing like landing pages, we're doing newsletter articles for carriers, we're doing webinars just like this. And I'm sure those are just going to keep going because it feels like more and more requests are coming in from carriers to explain kind of the Bold Penguin terminal and why their agents should use it. So that's kind of it's an interesting sort of almost like a channel sale, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's working pretty well.
Yeah, I see it as like a value add to the relationship, just an added benefit for both parties, hopefully. There's a question here on any advice you would give to insurance agents. I would counter that with the flip side of the coin too. What is the best either product feature commentary you've heard or like improvement you've gotten from an agent before? You could answer that either way. But John, I'm going to give that one to you.
Oh, good question. What was the original question? And then
the original question was, what is the advice, or do you have any advice you would give to insurance agents?
Oh, any advice I would give? Yeah, I would just try to embrace these tools as much as possible. I know it seems overwhelming at times, but what you can come out after acquiring these tools, implementing, and what your agency can look like in 18 to 24 months, and the efficiency and where you're able to spend your time can completely change. And I think it can really help grow your agency and help deepen your relationships with your insureds. That's going to increase your renewal rates, increase your referrals that you get from them, which every agency wants to get new business via referrals because they know the success that you have of a referral versus a cold lead is just dramatically higher. So I would really, even if it's difficult, and really learn the tech too, and really dive into, make sure you're using it correctly and you're implementing it with the different, whatever the stack is within your agency, that all the technology pieces fit together appropriately. Is the worst is to buy a couple things off the shelf and not have them work correctly together, and having just do more manual entry from system to system, make sure the data flows throughout. And so it's as single entry as possible within your agency. The best advice we've gotten from I don't know if I have one. A lot of our product has been developed and changed via feedback from agents, and it's been a lot of feedback. It's not just been from a singular source. So this Coterie Collaborative I just mentioned, we actually had this last year. Folks on our team have been working with our agents and gathering feedback for a long time, bringing in product people to have conversations with our agents. So it's really developed the product to what we see today in terms of when our agents log into our system and rate, quote, and bind, what it looks like today. The quote proposal is one in particular. I'll just pick that item out. When we first started, it was like a print screen button at the end of the quote, basically. And our agents are like, this does not work. We need some kind of formal document to propose to our insureds that looks professional, lines out the coverages so I can quickly scan and see what is covered, what might be excluded, what the forms are. So the quote proposal in particular is one item. Billing and payments. I know, Christina, you're involved in that. That's another item that we've gotten a lot of feedback from our agents over time that we've taken that feedback and are taking it to heart.
Yes, payments are a tricky one to get right, but well worth it once you've kind of mastered it. Chris, I will flip it over to you for that, very complex question. There were layers to it.
I was taking notes. It was so complicated.
Sorry.
Yeah. And I'll note that payments is super interesting, and there's some startups starting in that space that I'm keeping an eye on. Some interesting stuff I think is going to come there. So I'll start with the first kind of question, like advice to agents that are adopting technology. And I always think about the user adoption bell curve, right? Because it's painful if you don't understand it. So if you have 5 users of a software application, the first one will love technology. They're going to want to go use it. They're cool with bugs. They're fine with it. They'll crush it. The middle 3 people will watch that first person, let them work out the bugs, and then they'll slowly start adopting it based on where they are on that bell curve. And then the last person will never use it, probably, ever. Right? No matter what you do. And I don't know what you do with that person. It's kind of an operational question at that point. But I think that in the insurance industry, I've seen it over and over again. So go in knowing that's kind of how it is. If you're trying to take an existing unit doing small business insurance and you're trying to get them into the Bold Penguin terminal, that bell curve is definitely going to apply. So there's a good part to that. Find your early adopter and get them in the software and working and figuring out the kinks of it and the kinks in your processes, and then smooth it out before you release it to everyone else. That's how I would go. So that's the way I think about adopting technology in an agency. And I think it's hard, but we've seen it be wildly successful. Gosh darn it, I said it again. That was not a jab. I knew it was coming. But I was reminded of the Satinoff agency, which is one of our partners. They actually, I'll get to the agency council that we run at Bold Penguin in just a second, but I remember the story from them where they were so successful with Bold Penguin, they ended up creating a Bold Penguin room at their agency. And so we sent them a bunch of swag and decals and stuff they could do with that. And that was awesome. They went all in on small business insurance. And I think it's been very successful for them as a result. We have a testimonial up on their website from them. And we learned about them because we started last year the agency council at Bold Penguin, the Bold Penguin Agency Council. So it was a group of users, some power users, and frankly, some that weren't using the software, even though they had bought it. And that was kind of on purpose. And we would get them together every other month to talk about what we're doing at Bold Penguin, what's going to be coming out potentially, and any feedback they have. And really great events, really successful. And it actually led to, I think, an epiphany for the product team around E&S lines and how important those were. And we can really start expanding the quotes if we can go bridge over to E&S and make that happen. And so we're actually launching E&S today as a result. Accord forms is another example where we can import and export Accord forms. That came out of that agency council in part. So we try to be very proactive in listening to our customers and making sure they're successful. And that's how we kind of notice the improvements that they need and then get them into the pipeline.
Did you notice, now I'm just curious, any converts from the group that bought the Bold Penguin product, didn't really use it, after being a part of this initiative? Did they convert? Are they more heavily or more active users now?
So it's one person I'm thinking of, and no,
Okay.
to be totally honest with you, no, they did not. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. Sometimes, I mean, it's the bell curve all over again. It's the bell
Yep.
curve with Bold Penguin too, right? So
Doesn't matter what you do.
only so much you can do.
Yep. Okay, so I do want to remind anyone on the webinar that you can add any questions in the comments area. So feel free to add any throughout this, and we will take live questions too. Test John and Chris out as much as possible. It can range. Think of anything. We would like it to stay. Well, I would say they would probably like it to stay to the topic, but I'm opening up the floodgates. Ask us anything. Just kidding.
Christina, what's it going to take for Kentucky to be wildly successful again in college basketball?
Oh my gosh. So my little brother, like, people texted me like, "Are you okay?" And I said, honestly, I'm fine. I watched it on a plane back to back home, and like the poor person next to me was just like, "What is wrong with her?" We should really check in on my brothers. They're not well.
Yeah.
So just thoughts for the state of Kentucky. But
Is Calipari back next year?
so that's where my little brother said, so this is a hot take, who thought we were going to turn into a
Sports talk radio.
Yeah. March Madness / insurance talk.
If you ask my little brother, sophomore at the University of Kentucky, he thinks he's got one more year to turn it around, and John's gone. He does not focus in sports as his major, so I don't know how much we can trust him, but we'll see. That's the feeling on the campus. So thank you for that hard-hitting question, Chris.
Yep.
I'm just trying to think through.
I have one question for Chris, actually.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. What, based upon your analysis of the bell curve, where do you think we kind of are in the small commercial space on that bell curve?
Very, very early. Very, very early. Maybe we're still in that kind of first third that is adopting digital quoting. There's a lot of room to grow, but that's not going to happen until the experience gets truly magical, where you go in, you enter the information once, and you get a quote that you can use and you're done, right? It's not there yet. No, I mean, there's too many declinations for the admitted market right now, too many classes that just aren't covered that have to go over to E&S. So we have to get E&S going in order for it to be truly magical, which is why we launched it today. I think the second part too is like getting agencies comfortable spinning up their own branded sites that are effective, so that a small business customer, can go get a quote directly and maybe never even have to talk to an agent if that business is comfortable with it. Not every business wants to do a quote by themselves, but some do. And so making that happen is kind of the other side. So yeah, that's what I think about it, because we got to get to magic before we get 100% adoption.
I agree with you most of the part. I think we're kind of somewhere on that second person. I'm not exactly sure. I think we've gotten a lot of early adopters thus far. I don't know if that second person has put their hands on the keyboard or if they've entered a quote. I don't know exactly where they are, but I think we're somewhere in that realm.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we need the coteries to start popping up in the E&S space, right? So that they start. That process is painful. It is crazy. And so,
well, that's my background, Chris. So I come from there. It is wildly difficult. Yeah, it's well, the underwriting and the rating per risk is completely unique. So how do you homogenize that, right? And how do you put that onto a platform and expose rating when it's basically an underwriter's brain saying, well, for this one, I want it to be 6,000. Yeah. That's the difficulty with it. But no, there's definitely some improvements to be made there. And I think especially in the shoulder risks, I think too many risks fall into the E&S market. where if you're smart about it on the admitted side and have proper underwriting, that's hopefully where we get to in our future, is to, okay, we don't really think this risk needs to go to E&S market. We'll debit it, and based upon our data we build and our underwriting model, we'll keep it in the admitted market, and we'll just charge appropriate rate and provide appropriate coverage for it.
Yep.
I'm going to take this time as a reminder for the audience again. If there are any burning questions, drop them in the comments. We have one of, what are your thoughts or advice to agents not using the technology yet? What would you say to them? John, you seem ready.
I am always ready, Christina. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, just what I echo my comments earlier. I think that it reframes where you can spend your time, and focusing, in the business, I always get them confused, but focusing on your agency and spending your time with your customers is absolutely critical, and the customers demand it at this point. Continue to focus on bringing extra value to your insureds, so that way, as they scale and become large businesses, you'll always be their broker, and they won't ever be tempted to go look out and leave your agency.
Chris, do you have any thoughts or advice?
Yeah, I think if I was an agent considering adopting technology, so at the very beginning, I would think about what happened to the travel industry, right? So when you are wanting to get a price for flying to Hawaii, right, you will go to Travelocity or Orbitz or something like that and get lots of plane ticket quotes, essentially, right? And then maybe there's like one provider like Southwest Airlines that you love and you really want to go check them out. And so you go do that too. And that's about the extent of your search if you're kind of a normal travel quoting person. And that, I think, is a very apt comparison to small business insurance. I think that's what's going to happen, is like you go and you get quotes from lots of carriers via one site. And then maybe there's like one or two that you feel good about a certain value prop that they have. And so you're willing to go to their portal and get a quote as well. Yeah, I think that's the future. And so if I'm thinking about adopting tech, I'm like, okay, that's it. That makes sense. Let's go figure out how to implement this.
Yeah. Chris, since I have you here, this is kind of a hot seat question. If we're just scratching the surface of insurance and technology, what do you think, like, your wildest dreams? How does insurance and how does the technology change drastically to provide this wildly, what was that? Wildly successful?
Wildly successful.
Wildly successful experience.
Yeah. It depends on your point of view, but like, I think where this is kind of going in a wildly crazy view, like 10 years, is small businesses. Some people will not like to hear this, but like small business risks get traded among carriers in real time, right? Because all this becomes so fast that it's like, okay, I don't want this, but I want this, but I know this carrier wants that, so we'll go send that over to them. And it all just starts like, it's like instantaneous stock market type stuff, which is like one of the background things about Bold Penguin is they named the Bold Penguin Exchange and the terminal and all of this off of the Bloomberg terminal that was built to connect to the internet, or to connect to the stock exchange. So it's always made sense to me. Well, eventually we'll get there where this all is like real-time trading among carriers. I think that's going to happen. Maybe not, but that's kind of what I always envisioned. Like, that's like 10 years away though.
Yeah, that's interesting. Noticing another question in the chat. What would you recommend to agents who are new to small commercial in terms of evaluating the best technology to grow their commercial book? I like this because there are so many options growing and becoming available in this space. John, what do you see, or what do you recommend here?
Yeah, I recommend kind of, I think I touched on this a little bit already, but just making sure the stack makes sense to whatever you're buying, right? Usually you're going to have an AMS system. You're going to have maybe a lead gen system. You might have a comparative rating system, maybe personal lines, might offer commercial lines too. Like, do your carriers that your primary carriers that you are placing business with, are they on those stacks? Like, making sure it all makes sense with your unique agency and what your market and where you place business is super, super important. Make sure all the way down, up and down the chain, that makes sense for your agency. Too often I've heard from agents that, get sold a bale of goods and it doesn't really connect with their primary carriers and doesn't really connect to their AMS. And so now they're taking data out and putting it into this system and just trying to make something work that really doesn't. So that's kind of, the horror stories I've heard from agents around implementing tech that didn't really work right. And some of it's on them, right? Because they didn't evaluate it fully and ask the right questions in the evaluation period and make the providers prove to them. We're getting into this world now where there's a lot less of that, with APIs connecting a lot of the partnerships. So there's a lot less of that friction, but I just still make sure to ask those poignant questions when you're evaluating the technology. Understand the billing. People don't always understand what they're getting charged for and what they're going to get out of it as well.
Great. Chris, what do you recommend?
Yes, I wrote down 2 things to look at. Number one, avoid quote scraping technologies or software applications. They don't work very well. There's a difference between APIs and quote scraping. Ask if people scrape. I would avoid scraping if I was an agency looking to adopt technology. The second thing, and I think this is probably more important, is how many opportunities do you have? How many businesses need quotes that you can run through your system, right? It sounds very obvious, but the name of the game with digital quoting is the number of small businesses you're running through it to get profitable, right? And so where are you going to get your small business opportunities? And I'm not using the word leads because I think that small business leads is a very murky area and people are selling a lot of very bad leads out there. I will say one of the most interesting parts about the Bold Penguin platform is that we sell prospects, which are warm call handovers to the agent, where small business somehow gets into our funnel and we say, okay, I'm going to connect you with an agent. And because we don't do the quoting, we never do any quoting. So we're avoid scraping quotes because it just doesn't work very well. And then where are you going to get your small business opportunities that you're quoting? Make sure you have the right numbers there because trying to create that on the fly is very tricky.
Okay, that's great. Chris, my question originally brought you back. What are some of the best examples of building value proposition that you've seen from carriers in the digital space? Can you talk a bit about how you see carriers growing brand loyalty? It's a great question.
Okay, leave that out because I'm pondering that. Okay. So the value proposition thing, I'll be honest, I think there's so much room for carriers to partner with companies like Bold Penguin and do really interesting stuff. So one of the areas that I see is difficult for carriers is just getting agents signed up to quote that carrier's business, right? The the appointment process takes a long time. So we have one carrier, for example, kind of handing off they basically say, if you're on the Bold Penguin platform, we will run you through the appointment process. So if you want to go digital, just go talk to Bold Penguin and we'll kind of route you through that. We can get people through very fast because of that. So figuring out how to speed up that appointment process is number one, because that's the first touch they're going to have with the carrier. An agent is going to have with the carrier. So make that as painless as possible and as fast as possible, because nobody wants to wait. I'm waiting 7 days right now for a tablet. I don't want to wait 7 days, and I don't want to wait 7 days for an appointment. So figure that process out, because that's how you can gain a lot of loyalty. And then growing brand loyalty in the digital space. So that's a tricky one, right? Because let's go back to the travel analogy again. The travel website analogy, those companies that appear on a Travelocity or an Orbitz, you're a brand, you're a logo at that point, right? And you're giving a quote. So you're not going to build loyalty there. It's everything you do afterwards, right? It's how fast you pay out on claims. It's how good are your claimed representatives, I think. And I would kind of, I don't know, I feel like I'm not perfectly positioned to answer that question, but what is the thing you're going to be known for? And don't think of it as a digital thing. Think of it as the non-digital thing. That's where you get the loyalty, I think. So I don't know. What do you think about that answer?
I think that makes sense, where the relationship part comes in too, to kind of marry the two together. But John had something better to say there.
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking about the travel analogy again, Chris, just because my personal use, I kind of despise Expedia and Travelocity. Like I really do not. I just think it's overwhelming options, right? A lot of it is bad. And so I find myself as a user going to the ones I know that I want to go to.
Yep.
I use the Marriott Bonvoy app. I use the Southwest app. I use, these apps where I know of the brands that I know that I'm going to get a superior experience compared to having to sift through all of these options that I know most of them aren't good. And I've gone through a bad experience with them, so I don't want to repeat it.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I use the exact same apps you just mentioned, right? Mm-hmm. So then the question becomes like, what is that superior experience? And like, but I'm not sure. This is where like, I'm just not sure carriers are going to be able to provide a superior quoting experience. And I could be wrong. Like I could be way wrong and somebody crushes it. And like, it's like Bold Penguin's like, whoa, that is amazing. But maybe that superior, I guess what I was trying to say is that superior experience is everything after the quote.
Yeah, that's I think policy lifecycle stuff, right? After the policy is bound, what happens then? Yeah. How do you handle claims? How do you service the policy? How do you do renewals? How do you do endorsements? I mean, how are you adding value to the agency, not just on particular risks? What are we doing outside of that to provide value?
Okay, well, I think we are right about time. Thank you all. Thank you, Chris, John, for your thoughts and letting me grill you a little bit. And then also thank you for bearing with me on the dad jokes. They're the kind that make you cringe, but in a good way. Reach out if you ever want some more. I have plenty saved. But thank you guys for joining. Reach out if you have any questions. And thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.